return to the White House more determined and more inspired than ever about the work there is to do and the future that lies ahead.
President saying there he's more inspired about the work that lies ahead. But what exactly is that work? Well, one of the major issues looming just over the horizon, I'm talking months here and weeks, is the so-called fiscal cliff. The president, House Speaker John Boehner, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, they're going to have to forge an alliance, whether they like it or not, to strike an agreement on everything from tax hikes here, spending cuts, or virtually every American household will see a bigger chunk of their income go to the IRS starting January 1. Now, expiring tax cuts are going to hit the middle class hard. $3,500 tax hike for families making $70,000 a year. Also expected to be an issue, of course, Iran and nukes and other issues certainly pressing on the foreign policy front. Meanwhile, President Obama, he's going to have to find replacements for two of his most important cabinet secretaries, one that deals with fiscal issues and one obviously with foreign affairs, Secretary Clinton stepping aside. Now, I mentioned Secretary Clinton, but also the Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner, had both indicated, maybe not immediately, which we thought would happen right after the election, but soon thereafter, that they're probably going to be making their way out. You can also expect, I believe, issues like immigration reform, because I think it's in the best interest of both parties to become an issue in the years to come. We may even have a serious discussion about climate change, heaven forbid. All right, joining us now to class up the table, Chris Shays, former Republican congressman from the state of Connecticut here, who put in more than his fair share of time here last night. Congressman, thank you, by the way, for braving the elements.
Well, you guys scared me. I was watching TV, and I said, let's bring a little honesty to this conversation, a little candidness. And I had to run over here.
Together, the IQ threatened room temperature. So, biggest issue, this fiscal cliff. Last year at this time, we said they're not going to go there. And they went there. And they just punted it down the road for another year. Everybody says we don't want a repeat of it. Do you have any indication to think that people got the memo last night that they got to strike a deal here?
Oh, they're going to.
I'm
so? Absolutely convinced.
But where do you have the faith?
Well, first off, it's going to be connected with somehow some tax reform. You have a chairman of the Ways and Means Committee that has been working night and day to get rid of some of the write-offs, what some call loopholes.
Sure.
And the speaker said we're willing to raise more money through that process. In other words, they're going to tax more. But in the process, if they could have a cleaner tax code, that would be historic, and it's doable. We're
going to talk next segment about the challenges the Grand Old Party faces going forward. But what gives you indication, just from a politics standpoint? Last year, Boehner struck a deal with the president, came back, and the Tea Party faction said, not so fast here. We're not going to support this deal. Why do you think this time around either he'll have more leverage within his own party or that the Tea Party is going to, in effect, step down?
The presidential election is over. That's huge. It's huge.
All right. Another big issue is obviously Iran. And Andrew, whoever the Secretary of State's going to be, it'll be interesting the play the president makes. We heard inklings in the week leading up to the election here that there may be a deal potentially on the table beyond, obviously, what we're talking about, the sanctions that were in place and the saber rattling and the talk. I'm curious, how does Washington work? Is there a united front in what American policy is?
I'm not sure if there is a united front. I mean, obviously, the goal is the same, and that's to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. But I don't, and Congressman, maybe you could tell me, how do you think Republicans would react if there was a deal on the table between Tehran and the Obama administration, if they sat down to try to hammer something out, as there were indications of or reports of a couple of weeks ago? I'm not sure that
bilateral talks are good or a bad thing.
I mean, I think they would be good because they reduce potentially the threat, but I'm not sure if there wouldn't be elements on the right who would say, whoa, now you're capitulating to the enemy.
Well, the first thing is, as you say, they can't have nuclear weapons. And if a deal can be struck, no matter how it's struck, that prevents them from having that, that would be viewed as positive. When I would meet with the Israeli government, the government leaders wouldn't tell me what they were going to do, but then they'd have me meet with the retired four-star general or somebody who had been involved in their Secret Service, and they would say things like, if Iran gets nuclear weapons, it will be the death of Israel. When they say that, they are saying to me, there's no way in hell that they're going to allow Iran to get, but they want to do it through that person, so if I say it publicly, it's not attributed to the government.
real quickly, Dom, I think in the next 4 years there's opportunity for stuff that both parties can use the other party as cover that'll help them out. And I'm talking about immigration, I'm talking about climate change. When I say climate change, I'm talking about some actual real construction stuff here, not just talk, that would maybe protect the country and do huge infrastructure projects. Conversely, we're going to talk about the next segment of the Republican Party. Immigration reform is in everybody's best interest. If you look at the returns last night, how the Latino vote broke, and at the same end, nobody wants this thing hanging over them. The president wants it as an accomplishment on his ledger. Republicans want to get this issue away from them so that at least that part of the electorate will look back at them as an alternative. I think there's a chance that some horse trading could go on, get some real policy stuff done.
There's always a policy for horse trading, as the congressman could tell us. But I think even more important than those issues, jobs, and the economy getting better. Those are the top issues. Sure, you have the war in Afghanistan, all that stuff that's out there on in immigration, but Americans, I think this election shows we want to hear about jobs and better life for everyone.
All right, when we come back here, just in time, Chris Shays gets to talk about his favorite subject here, the future of the Republican Party. We're going to be talking about that with the congressman and more. A lot of soul searching going on. Right after Mitt Romney delivered that speech last night. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back.